Are you impatient? Do you want what you want when you want it, and when you want it is right now? Well, you're in luck because today's episode we were talking about the benefits of waiting. Wait a second. There's benefits to waiting? Holy freaking
None.
cow. And we're not just talking about losing your V card. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy?
Yeah,
Ugh,
quite an intro, huh?
I know, it was good. Man,
Yeah.
hi, I was waiting. The
Yeah.
I think probably most people think there's no benefits to waiting now.
hmm Well,
I
if
mean,
you can have it faster, why would you want to wait?
well, it's hard. I know it is hard too, because I think like we have been so conditioned to getting things now. Like, it's funny, I laugh all the time now because like all these companies have come into existence. I feel like in the last like, I don't know, 5 or 10 years that you can buy stuff now with like those payment plans
hmm
now. And there's I forget the names of them, but there's a ton. Anywhere you
Yeah.
go shopping, you'll see it. Like it's like 4 easy
Oh yeah,
payments.
you
Blah,
can
blah,
have
blah.
everything now. You can scratch your itch
Yeah.
now, and then you'll just be paying for it for the rest of your life.
And I get it, right? Because like that's exactly it, right? When people are shopping, most of the time it's like you're scratching that itch, so they want you to buy it now. Because if you wait, you're probably gonna like talk yourself out of it because you don't need it.
Yeah.
But it's funny that like that kind of stuff, though, I think really does screw up our ability to like wait for things. We get frustrated. Like, and with packages, like if something doesn't come in the mail, like when you expect it to, people get pissed because it's like, where is it?
Well, dude, it
What's
used to take
going
a
on?
couple of weeks to ship stuff. Now you order on Amazon, you get it later that day.
You
But
remember
even
ordering, this is dating
that's what
myself,
I
but
was gonna
remember ordering
say.
from the
Yeah.
back of a magazine and it would be like, dude, like 6 months
Yeah, it would
to
be like
get it.
allow 4 to 6 weeks for
We
processing.
have to
And
make it,
yeah, exactly.
literally.
Yeah, everything. But there's something to be said for waiting. And this is actually from a little bit of personal experience that the
Oh,
topic for this came up. So a while back, I read this book called Essentialism, which is like the premise that you can do anything, but you just can't do everything, and only a few things matter. And so
I thought you were about the philosophical. Never mind, go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So ever since then, I have like my list of the things that are most important to me, and then I have like a queue list. So like a up next list. So like stuff that's on
Uh,
there is stuff that I want to do, but I just don't have enough time, resources, brain power, whatever it is to do it now. And so what's really interesting is probably like a month ago, I started doing something that was on my to-do list. Like it had been on my to-do list for like months, maybe even years at this point. And I'd always been looking at it, but I just never had the time, never had the energy, whatever it was. And so I started doing it about a month ago, and it's the most rewarding thing I have done in so long. And it's just crazy because I'm like, had I have, I'm thinking, I'm like, man, if I would have just done this like years ago when I wanted to, imagine how much better it would be. But then I'm thinking, maybe part of how good it is just because I had to wait for so long and I saw it
oh,
there all the time and other stuff came and gone from that like waiting list, but this one stayed there and then now I made the time for it.
no, I think it does though. It does increase its value. Because dude, like, I mean, I told you this. You remember when I got that one lens I really wanted, and I had wanted that lens for like a decade, literally.
hmm
Like, since I first like before. Well, yeah, way long ago. And but it's expensive. They're not cheap. So
hmm
I couldn't at the time. Like, I could have probably gotten it like back then. I could have used credit or something, but then I would have been paying it off, and it would have ended up spending way more. And like waiting, like I was able to buy it outright. It was awesome, and like it's been the best. And like I think there is something to that. It's hard to do though, because you have to like, constantly remind yourself and like, wait and hold back. But at the same time, it's like I think also like when you wait too, you also have time to actually enjoy the things that you're
hmm
getting. Cause like, you're getting it at a time when like, okay, I can use it now. And you get to enjoy it too. Cause that's the other side. Like I know there's stuff like we buy that like we don't even use because we don't even have time to use it. Like
hmm
it's like an idea we have. Like people want to start a hobby or something, so they'll go get stuff because it's fun to buy stuff, and then they don't ever start because they don't really have time in their schedule to do that thing.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
easy
like,
to buy this stuff. It's hard to actually
oh
use it.
yeah, yeah, and then you have to have a bunch of junk. But I think it is. It's really hard though. Like it is hard waiting at first, and I do the same thing as you do. I keep like I have so many like lists of things I want to do or whatever, and it's cool because on the one hand, I think by writing stuff down, I do find like it gets done eventually. And a lot of times before I even think it's gonna get done, it gets done. But I like that idea too, what you were mentioning of like of prioritizing like your most important things, because I've been kind of doing that too in like a sort of week by week method, I guess, but prioritizing like the most important things you want to do, and then everything else is like bonus. And but it can also you also realize that that stuff can wait and be pushed aside. It's okay, and it takes that stress off because I think when you don't do that, you're like running around like a chicken with its head cut off, right? Like you feel like you have so much to do, you can't get everything done, and then everything just gets worse and
Hmm.
harder to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's only a few things that you can actually do and really make any measurable difference in. And so by having that list there, it's allowed me to kind of like almost do the things that I want to do. Like I know that I'm going to do it when I have the time and
Yeah.
resources available to do it, but it's just right now I'm full. I can't do anymore.
No, and I think you make a good point too about resources, because when you don't have the resources, you can't do it right either. And I think that's like the other thing we screw up so much is like that's why people start things that they want to do so much and quit. And I've done this in the past too, because like you really want to do something, so you start, but it's like totally not the right time. You have way too much other stuff you haven't prioritized right, and so you can't commit to it like you should. Because like
Mhm.
we talk about this all the time. Like anything like worth getting good at is going to take time. It takes a lot of effort, and like if you really are passionate about something, really want to do well at something, you're gonna have to put a lot of hours in, and you have to kind of have that time scheduled out for yourself. So I think waiting in that case too can be really beneficial to like the right moment. But what if there is no perfect moment? This is the other side that I think you hear people say a lot, like there's never a right time. And I do also think that's also true to some extent with
Hmm.
stuff. Like sometimes you just do have to pull the trigger. Like,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's certain things, there's never a right time, but yeah, I don't know. There was another thing that I was thinking of in terms of this with like what was it? Oh yeah, learning patience.
Oh yeah.
So so like patience is the hardest thing because I mean, I've just trained I guess we're all trained to just be impatient. Like we're rewarded for being impatient. And so in life all the time, I'm like, well, I have to walk faster than people and drive faster than people and get to the shortest line at the grocery store and be the first one in and the first one out and all this different stuff. And it's like all these signs of being impatient. And there was this the book the ruthless elimination of hurry, and he was talking about how it can actually be a practice and a good practice to intentionally, like when you go to the supermarket, get in the longest line possible, and like when you're
And
driving
not
down
be
the
an ass
high
about it.
yeah, yeah, I know,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
when you're driving down the highway, drive in the slow lane. And it's like these things help build up patience because the only way that you get it is through training.
Well, you know what's funny too? I always found that funny with driving because like you'll rush to get somewhere, but like really, at most, like, what are you shaving off?
A
Like
minute,
maybe a
two
couple
minutes.
minutes? Yeah,
Yeah.
like most of our drives, like granted, like a long trip, like if you're going like a 10-hour trip, you might be able to shave off like 30 minutes or something if you're driving a little quick.
But
But
still,
even that,
for a day
yeah.
trip, you're saving 30 minutes. What are you going to do in that 30 minutes is so
And
important.
and it's funny, and it's like, but in to do that, to like save that minute or that 30 minutes, you're also like amping up your adrenaline, your stress, your anxiety. It's
Endangering people's
all
lives.
yeah, it's all going through the roof. Like it's really funny when you step back and kind of think about this stuff. And I think I like that idea too of like going along the lines and stuff and just trying to force yourself to kind of realize that it doesn't matter, it'll get done. And
Yeah.
I think, but we're so conditioned on the dopamine hit and that immediacy of everything. And I do think like a lot of that has been technology, like because it changed so much of our society. I mean, we saw literally lived through it. Like you saw like, I remember that was like kind of the time too when stores started to stay open 24 hours, like not just like gas stations, but like everything. And like,
Hmm.
everything was open 7 days a week and like everything had to be now and ready and available because,
Yeah. Or like
it
back in the
just
day of
changed things.
dial-up modems where like you turn it on and it would take 5 minutes to load or whatever. And there's that crazy, yeah, exactly. And then it would have this like slow site that would kind of come down like a little bit at a time. And you'd be like, come on, come on. But nowadays, if the page doesn't load instantaneously, you're just clicking the back button or going somewhere else
You remember if like pages had an image, dude, it would take like 5 minutes
forever. Yeah.
you get like the title and then it'd
Yeah.
be like, oh God. But yeah, it was funny. I remember I'll never get the one of my buddies is like one of the first kids I knew that got his family had a computer with like the internet. This is like, well, I don't know. I was in probably like kind of sixth grade or so. But went to his house and he's like, dude, check this out. It's awesome. You can chat with anybody. It was like a, one of those
Yeah.
chat group things that like,
Yeah.
where it's like basic text messaging with other people, random people. And he's like, check this out. So he's like, he says like something like, hello, what's up, whatever. And like 5 minutes or 10 minutes later, like a response comes back. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And he was sitting there all day. So like he had to, like had only communicated with maybe like four people, a couple conversations,
Yeah.
just waiting.
Fast
Yeah.
forward 30 years. Now you can have an instantaneous conversation with a pedophile trying to
Yeah, right. Trying to bait you.
Yep.
Yeah, it is weird though, but I think we have lost that. And I wonder too, because it's funny, I was just thinking about this last night. It's kind of funny, you just reminded me of it by bringing this topic up. But I was watching this show and it was like taking place in like I think it was like, sometime around like probably like the 1800s. And it was during a war and stuff, but like, they kept showing this one character, like he was like doing, going on a journey, but he kept sitting, like kept doing meditation and stuff. And I was like, I wonder if people did that more back then, because like they didn't have all these other distractions. Like there wasn't like, I mean, you couldn't even get books that easily.
Dude,
So
I
like,
remember rainy days when I was a kid was like the worst torture ever because there was
yeah,
just nothing to do. Like, especially if you like at my house, I had like Nintendo or whatever. But like
yeah.
if I was going somewhere else and it was a rainy day, it was just torture because you're just sitting inside. Like, what is there to do? I've done everything already.
Yeah, and I always wondered if that like if we were like naturally more like more patient back then or more like, just able to like be bored because I think that's what it is. We are incapable of being bored anymore.
Well, also, I just finished this book called The Open Focus Brain, and it was kind of talking about that type of thing, how there are multiple types of focus. So, like right now, in this day and age, we're very good at this sharp focus where we can focus on stuff like, computer screens and problems and figuring out everything. But it causes a
Mostly
lot of
screens.
issues. Yeah, it causes a lot of issues because we can never really relax. And so
Yeah.
the whole book was talking about this open focus where like you're able to just take more things in and that was probably what people did back in the day because you just sit outside and you're just like, oh, let it all come in.
You can reflect on other stuff. You can like reflect on your past. You can reflect on your decisions. You have time to do that. And I noticed that now, like, because we've been talking about this a lot, but I've been working on my schedule because, like, I felt like I was like just, it was too intense. And, like, and I noticed when it gets that way too, like, you can't relax. You're just stressed all the time because you never feel like you're getting enough done. You never feel like you're like, and so it's like every day it feels like you're starting like behind almost. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
and I think that's like such an unhealthy way to live too, because you're just stressed constantly.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, it doesn't make it, you don't enjoy the things that you are doing. And you don't do them well either, because you're not giving yourself time to do them. So it's like horrible. And I
Hmm.
think it does, but it does take, I think in our society now, it takes conscious effort to actually do these things because the like kind of, I guess, like go to is just intense focus and like rushing.
Yeah. And it's like the concept that everything that we're doing makes such a big difference, but then in the
I know,
end, it
right?
doesn't. Yeah. Because we're rushing to
None
get
of
all
it,
this stuff done. And in the
none of
end,
it
it doesn't.
matters.
Yeah. Like it's crazy. Like all of the most important projects of our lives are probably just going to be pushed aside once we die, and somebody else will be like, man, not a big deal.
Dude, they won't
Life
even
goes on.
matter.
Yeah.
Other stuff will be made. Other stuff will be created that's going to outshine it for sure.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
always going to happen. I mean,
Hmm.
it's rare that there's stuff that persists. I mean, even if you look at like ancient history, right? How many like books, how many works really survived? Probably like, the smallest percentage of what existed. Most
Hmm.
of those people that were probably up there with the people that we celebrate as greats, from back then,
Hmm.
their work's probably never been found, probably doesn't exist, and they're unknown. So it's like you think of
Yeah.
it that way, it's like, yeah, I mean, and
And
also who cares anyway?
it
They
may
don't
not
know.
even be the best stuff. It could have
Yeah.
just been the stuff that survived or could have been the trend of the time. Like, you look at nowadays, sure, there's a lot of great stuff coming out, but like if you look at the trends, it's not
Yeah.
exactly always the best stuff. And what if that's all that carries on and not the actually important
Yeah.
things?
I mean, that's the interesting thing, right? And like, and it's funny too because like you have no control over that stuff either, like legacy or anything. So it's like there's no sense worrying about it. But yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, we need more patience and we need more slowing down, I think.
Yeah, so there you have it. That's nice and simple. The benefits of waiting. It's an interesting practice because everything is so fast paced in the world nowadays and you get everything immediately that like waiting seems like such an inconvenience and imposition. How dare you make me wait for my meal? You know?
Like, but it's funny because it's funny how hard it is to do.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
Cool. Well, that's all for this episode. If you enjoyed it, we got episodes coming out all the time on YouTube or also wherever you get your favorite podcast. This is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
wait already.